A father was tied to a tree by his children. 3 days later, the police uncovered a chilling truth. Greetings, everyone. Take a moment to relax as you dive into this tale. It takes place on the outskirts of Portland, in a kitchen soaked in shadows. Mr. Michael sat alone, staring silently at his cold tea. The house felt heavy, echoing a sorrow that had settled in his heart since his wife's passing 3 years ago. Claire, his daughter, stumbled into the kitchen, her hair a wild mess, her eyes dull. "Is there any coffee?" she asked. "I left it on the table, sweetheart," came Michael's soft response. Claire poured herself a cup, grimacing at the bitter taste. "Not this cheap stuff again." "I've told you, I don't have much money left," Michael murmured. David, her brother, scoffed derisively. "No money? What about this house? Your retirement checks? We're both unemployed, Dad, but you don't bother thinking about us." "I've raised you both these years," Michael replied, his voice quivering, "without counting the cost." Claire slammed her cup down. "So now you want us to beg on the streets?" "No, Michael began, but David cut him off. "You've clung to the past long enough. Mom's been gone for 3 years, but you act like she's still here. This house is just a burden." Michael's fists tightened, tears welling in his eyes. "This is the house your mother loved. It's where we raised you, where we were happy." Claire's laughter was bitter. "Happy? You think living in poverty is happiness? If you had just sold the house when Mom was still alive, maybe she wouldn't have died from the stress." David nodded in agreement. "At least there would have been more money for her treatment. But you wouldn't budge. Now we're left to suffer the consequences." "All I wanted was a safe haven for our family," Michael protested. "Safe?" David shouted. "This place is a dump." The tension strangled the air as Michael stood, his heart heavy and his spirit frail. He turned to leave when Claire shot out a cold remark. "You think you're the only victim here?" Michael stopped, trying to hold on to his composure. "I never wanted you two to suffer." "Then stop acting like a martyr when you've brought this on us," David retorted, flicking the rim of his cup. "We're out looking for jobs, getting rejected, living off an old man rotting in this dump, and you think you're the only one hurting? It's insane. Have you ever appreciated everything I've done to put you through school?" Michael voiced, his words shaky. "Oh God, not this again," Claire sneered. A sudden doorbell shattered the tension. Michael rushed to open it, revealing Mr. Jack, the elderly neighbor, holding a bag of oranges. "Hey Michael, I picked these for you," he said, with a weary smile. "Thanks, Jack," replied Michael awkwardly. "It's been a while." Concern flickered in Jack's eyes. "I heard shouting. Is everything all right?" "Just kids being kids," Michael assured, shaking his head. Jack hesitated but nodded. "If you need anything, you call me." Once Jack was gone, Claire slammed the door. "Nosy old man!" David sank into a chair. "We can't keep living like this, Dad. Do you even know how much the power bill is this month?" "I already paid it," Michael mumbled, his voice hollow. "With your retirement money," Claire shot back. "Then what are we supposed to live on?" Michael met their bitter gazes, feeling heartbroken. When had his children become so cruel? Economic despair and resentment had eroded their kindness. David banged his hand on the table. "We need a solution, fast." "Are you planning to divide the estate or not?" Claire asked bluntly. "Estate," Michael echoed. "All I have is this house, and I'm not selling it." "You're not thinking about us, then?" David challenged. "I always think about you, just not in the way you want." Claire's laugh was hollow. "So it's all about you. You love Mom, you love us, but it's all just for yourself." Tears streamed down Michael's face as he struggled with the hurt. "You've both changed so much," he whispered, "and you're being so selfish." "I'm not the one who abandoned you," David hissed, storming into his room and slamming the door. Silence filled the kitchen. Claire stood lost in thought before wordlessly leaving Michael alone, clutching the bag of oranges and weeping quietly. Darkness enveloped the house, chilling the atmosphere. In the bedroom, David whispered to Claire, "We have to act." "What do you mean?" Claire glanced at him. "If Dad won't split the assets, then we've got to take decisive action," David replied coldly. Claire's expression shifted. "Are you serious?" David nodded with a calculating glint in his eyes. "If he disappears, it's all ours." Claire felt a knot of dread in her throat, but her gaze fell to the flickering light bulb, her heartbeat racing. That night, Michael turned in early, unaware that his children were hatching a sinister plot just beyond the wall. "Have you thought this through?" Claire whispered in the darkened living room. David, leaning back, replied, "I can't spend another day mooching off a 65-year-old man stuck in the past." "But he's our father," Claire protested, glancing nervously down the hallway. "I know," David shot back, "but he's not the man I used to respect. He clings to this house like it's treasure while we waste away." Claire fell silent for a moment before softly whispering, "If he dies, everything goes to you." "To us," David corrected, locking his gaze with hers. "And you know the law in America. Children inherit when their parents die. No begging, no waiting." "What will we do?" Claire's voice trembled. "Simple, take him somewhere far away, somewhere no one will find him, and leave him." Claire shuddered. "You mean abandon him? You want to kill our father?" "No," David smirked. "Death will come naturally. No food, no witnesses, no crime." Claire's silence stretched until the clock struck 1 a.m. "Let's plan this for a weekend," David decided. "Friday night. The cops won't be suspicious if we report him missing on Monday." Friday came and the house felt suffocating. Michael was blissfully unaware as he read an old book in the living room. "Dad, this weekend we want to take you somewhere nice," David said, slipping on his jacket. "Get some fresh air. A walk in the woods near Columbia River," Claire added sweetly, forcing a smile. Michael looked up, surprised. "Really? Ever since your mom passed, no one's taken me anywhere." "That's why we want to change that," David reassured him, patting Michael's shoulder. Michael's heart warmed slightly. Maybe there was still goodness in them. At 9 p.m., David's car sped down the winding roads toward Everpine Forest, the darkness thickening around them. Michael sat in the back, admiring the scenery, oblivious to the sinister intent woven into the journey. "Been a while since I breathed air like this," he remarked. "Back when your mom was alive, we used to go camping every fall." Claire gazed out the window, her face unreadable. David forced a smile, recalling, "Yeah, Mom loved picking mushrooms." Michael chuckled softly, reminiscing about how she'd once wanted to be buried in a pine forest. "We're here," David announced as they pulled up to a narrow dirt path leading deep into the woods, the surroundings swallowed by darkness and wind. "This far out? I thought it was just a neighborhood walk," Michael remarked, opening the door. "The farther the better, Dad," Claire chirped, pulling a bag from the trunk. David stepped around to assist Michael out of the car, guiding him toward a large, magnificent tree, all covered in moss. "This place is beautiful. You'll love it," David encouraged. Michael's knees protested. He felt weak, but did his best to persist. "I'm not as strong as I used to be. My left knee still hurts." They made it to the tree, where David set down a backpack as Claire opened the cloth bag, revealing a long metal chain, a padlock, and a cloth. Before Michael could react, David grabbed him from behind, pinning him down. "What is this? What are you doing?" he shouted in panic. Claire rushed to stuff the cloth into his mouth, muffling his cries. David pulled Michael's arms back, locking them in chains around the tree, binding him tightly. "No, you're insane!" Michael thrashed in terror, his eyes wide with disbelief. "Stay put. If you had signed over the house, we wouldn't be here," David barked coldly. Michael's voice broke. "You're killing your father?" "No," David sneered. "Just letting nature take its course. Live or die, it's your choice." Michael's tears flowed freely now as he pleaded, "Your mother will curse you both." "We've been cursed for a long time already," Claire whispered, turning away. David checked the chain once more, ensuring it was tight. Claire placed an empty water bottle beside him to make it appear he had gotten lost. Michael screamed, trying to call for help, but his voice disappeared into the dense forest. "Let's go," David commanded, grabbing Claire's arm. As they walked away, Michael's desperate cries echoed one last time. "I'm your father. Don't you have a heart?" Claire traded choked sobs for a facade of indifference while David retorted coldly, "You had your chance. Goodbye." Michael's silhouette slowly faded into the shadows of the forest. On the drive back, Claire sat in silence, while David turned on the radio, trying to mask the agonizing quiet. "What are we going to tell the police?" Claire asked. "Wait until Monday morning. We report him missing after his usual walk. The town will think he got lost in the woods." "What about the neighbors?" Claire asked anxiously. "No one cares. Jack's senile. No one remembers faces," David replied matter-of-factly. Claire rested her head against the window, whispering, "I don't even know if I'm human anymore." "You are," David said matter-of-factly, "and people need to survive. We will survive." That morning, a strange quiet settled over the house. David pretended to call around before suddenly shouting, "Where did Dad go?" Claire screamed, "He didn't come home all night." "He might be lost." Neighbors gathered outside. Jack appeared, leaning heavily on his cane. "Where's Michael?" "I didn't see him leave last night." "He said he was going for a walk," David replied, feigning concern. "We thought he'd be back," Claire jumped in. Jack frowned. "Michael has trouble walking. Why would he go off alone?" "Maybe he wanted to visit Mom's grave," Claire interjected. "Maybe he got lost." "I'm calling the police," David added, trying to keep up the act. Jack observed them with sharp eyes, as if peering beyond their deceptive facade, but ultimately said nothing. The cold wind wafted through the forest trees as the crescent moon glinted in the dark sky. Meanwhile, Michael was still trapped beneath the old tree, his back against the freezing trunk, wrists swollen and eyes glossy with fright. "Is anyone there? Please help me!" he screamed, but only the sounds of nature responded. He coughed violently, blood seeping from the corner of his lips, while the night air bit cruelly at his fragile form. "David, Claire, my children, why would you do this to your father?" he whispered. He peered up at the night sky, longing for the missing presence of Emily. "Where are you? Can you hear me?" Suddenly, he heard rustling in the shadows. He held his breath, eyes wide. "Who's there?" "Please, I'm trapped. Help." His hope was met with silence, save for the chattering of a squirrel flitting through branches. He gasped for breath as numbness washed over his legs, the chain digging cruelly into his skin. The next morning, sunlight trickled through the leaves, and Michael remained bound, lips cracked and dry. He felt the pesky itch of insects biting into his skin. Despair gnawed at him. Each sound caused his heart to tremble with faint hope, only to be dashed again. "They're not coming back," he murmured. "They really left me here to die." Wind scraped across the forest, and as a leaf fell on his shoulder, he allowed himself a bitter chuckle. "I fed you kids spoon by spoon, and this is how it ends? Dying alone in silence." As days passed in painful agony, Michael's plight caught the attention of no one. Back in town, David and Claire continued their charade, printing missing posters. "Beloved Father Michael Foster, missing since the 13th. "Do you think anyone's suspicious?" Claire asked quietly. "No," David replied, but the slightest hint of doubt flickered behind his facade. At the bakery, their ever-suspicious neighbor Margaret held them in her gaze, her words heavy. "You children still haven't found anything?" "Not yet," Claire chimed in, feigning concern. "We're worried sick," David asserted. Margaret set down her cup. "Michael was a good man. He once bought bread for poor kids." Claire's forced smile slipped slightly as Margaret continued, "If someone hurt him, this town won't forgive it." With that, Margaret left, and David shut the door, anger bubbling beneath the surface. Anthony, Jack's old friend, trekked through the forest to hunt. "It's freezing," he muttered, shaking his head at the unwelcoming weather. He stumbled upon a faint groan. "Is there someone there?" he called, receiving nothing but silence. Determined, Anthony followed the sound, pushing through tall grass until he discovered the sight that stole his breath. A frail old man chained to the tree, face swollen and skeletal. "Sir! Hey, sir!" he called, rushing over as he shook Michael awake. "Help!" Michael gasped, barely hanging on to consciousness. Anthony, wide-eyed, pulled out a knife from his pack. I'm cutting you loose. Stay with me. Michael's weak frame nodded, whispering, David, he did this, before collapsing into blackness. With sheer strength, Anthony hoisted Michael onto his back and charged out of the woods. The rancid smell of decay clung to the air, and he sputtered, Hang on, Mr. Michael, just hang on. In the city, while Claire and David sat in their living room, steam still rising from cups of tea, Claire trembled. He's dead, right? I don't know, David replied anxiously. But if he's alive, why hasn't anyone said anything? Maybe he's still out there, Claire murmured. A knock at the door sent a jolt through them. Standing there was Jack, his expression dark with suspicion. Any news? No, David feigned cheer, but Jack's narrowing eyes saw through the act. I heard Michael calling from the forest up north, Jack revealed. Claire felt her heart drop, dread washing over her. Who said that? David pressed, but Jack didn't answer. We didn't see him go out last night. Maybe he got lost, Claire suggested weakly, glancing anxiously at David. I'll call the police, Jack said, his tone serious. As he departed, David's frustration boiled over. That old man is too nosy. Yeah, but he won't let this go easily, Claire fretted. David shrugged. As long as there's no proof, no one can touch us. In the forest, Michael drifted in and out of consciousness. Days without food or water had left him shattered. Isolated in the wilderness, things began to twist in his mind. Thoughts turned dark. Death might be easier, he mumbled to himself. Night turned into day, and Michael lost track of the hours. Time stretched endlessly within that unbearable silence. Eventually, a deer wandered by, pausing to sniff around Michael's frail body. Distracted, it trotted off as he lay there, eyes glazing over. A few more days passed. Michael wanted to scream but lacked the strength. Every move sent sharp pain shooting through him. As a croaking crow landed nearby, he felt despair seep into his bones. You waited too, didn't you? By Monday morning, Michael awoke to the stench of decay rising around him, ant bites festering. No, he screamed, realizing his body was slowly deteriorating. I don't want to die yet, he gasped, fighting fervently for survival. Despite the agony, he clung to a shred of strength. I survived because I must tell my story. I must see the truth. In town, the search persisted. News spread about Michael's disappearance as people worried. They shuffled around the bakery and the post office, talking in hushed whispers. Tuesday night, David and Claire defeatedly watched the news. No one's found the body yet, David lamented. What if he survived? Claire asked nervously. Without food or water for days? No chance? David replied, unbothered. At the police station, rumors stirred as Ethan reviewed the details of the case, constantly shadowed by the creeping suspicion that something wasn't right. The following day, a local hunter reported hearing faint cries in the northern woods. Maybe we should check it out, one officer remarked. In the depths of the forest, Michael felt consciousness trickle away from him, while visions of Emily danced in his fading mind. The days pressed on before Anthony ventured out again with purpose. I'll find a solution, he vowed. Back in town, David held himself together with resentment, while Claire sat curled in a corner, guilt consuming her. As the days folded into weeks, a palpable tension swept through the town. Rumors snowballed until action was taken. The police arrived at David's house with a search warrant, accompanied by Jack and others. Ethan wasted no time, questions burning on the tip of his tongue as they rounded up every detail. They rifled through drawers and closets until they unearthed a burlap bag, tattered chains hidden away. Evidence piled up quickly against David, leaving no room for denying the truth. Meanwhile, Michael lay in the hospital, recovering slowly. As his body continued to mend, news traveled through the town. When the police had him in front of them, he recounted the atrocities he had endured. David and Claire were the ones who abandoned me, he declared, determination lurking in every word. In the days that followed, the tide shifted. Justice loomed on the horizon as neighbors banded together, rallying with love and compassion, while Michael found strength through a community willing to stand by him. As the trial approached, Claire sat with her lawyer, confessing every moment of betrayal. "I was scared but didn't stop him," she admitted, tears drowned in regret. David, on the other hand, remained resolute, an unshakable facade cracking under the weight of mounting accusations. Days blended together until the preliminary hearing finally commenced. Michael was wheeled in, and for the first time he faced both his children, the shadows of former love standing before him now, mere definitions of the betrayal they had committed. During his moment to speak, Michael's voice trembled, but not with anger. "I choose to forgive, not to forget, but to find peace." Gasps echoed through the courtroom, yet Michael held firm in his conviction, ready to face whatever came next. Weeks turned into months, and with each sunrise, Michael grew healthier. He found strength in forgiveness and the arms of a town that rallied around him. Despite the pain of his past, he found joy in the warmth of his community, realizing that survival outweighed resentment. In the evenings, he sat alone outside, stargazing, filled with hope. As he whispered to Emily, "I found peace and I'm finally home." Michael knew he had weathered the darkest of storms. With each passing day, he remembered that kindness could always shine through the deepest shadows. This story serves as a powerful reminder of the consequences of greed, betrayal, and the straightforward yet paramount lesson: love must be nurtured, not taken for granted. Through Michael's journey, we learn that forgiveness not only saves others but frees us too. If this story moved you, consider liking and subscribing to our channel, motivating us to bring you heartfelt stories daily. Thank you for your support and see you soon.